Okay, you guys. So Blueface just went on a live stream in front of 16,000 people and miscounted his own children. And that means the question of who counts as what in that household has already been argued about, privately, before 16,000 people ever heard a word of it. The live stream did not create that dispute. The live stream just declassified it. And the second you realize that, every other clip from this summer starts looking completely different. Now, before we go any deeper into this, because we are going deep today, I need y'all to do me one favor. If you want the read on this story that the big blogs are too scared to publish, go ahead and tap that subscribe button, ring the bell, and drop a like, because we do not do the soft focus version over here. We do the version with the receipts attached. Alright, let's get into it. So let's do this the right way. Words first, interpretation second. Because the words are the only part of this entire story that nobody can spin. Tone can be debated all day. Intent can be massaged by a publicist. But a transcript just sits there, and everything I am about to build sits on top of it, not instead of it. Here is the exchange, exactly as it happened on that live. Nevaeh, mid-conversation, doing the math out loud. You got 2 kids and 2 baby daddies now. Blueface, completely unbothered. No, I don't. Then he doubles it. You got 2 kids. We've been over this already. And y'all, within hours, the clip pages had it chopped and circulating. Instagram had it. The reaction channels had it. The aggregators had it. Because everybody who heard it understood the same thing at the same time. That is not a man misspeaking. That is a man who forgot, for one unguarded second, that he was supposed to be lying. And I want to be precise about why the delivery is what gives it away, because this is the part the recap blogs keep skipping. Blueface has built an entire career on saying outrageous things into cameras. That is literally the business model. So the first time you watch this clip, your brain does what it is trained to do. It files the moment under streamer says wild thing on stream, and it moves on. But watch it a second time. The second watch is where it gets ugly, because the second watch is where you notice there is no showmanship in the sentence at all. He is not performing it. There is no smirk loading up behind it, no punchline energy, no glance at the camera to make sure the room caught it. He says it the way you correct somebody's grocery list. Flat. Housekeeping. Administrative. And when a man whose entire brand is exaggeration delivers a sentence with zero exaggeration in it, that is the sentence you are supposed to pay attention to. Then Nevaeh pushes back, still smiling for the chat, and says, "One's yours." And Blueface, calm as ever, says, "I'm counting." Now read that again slowly, because the syntax alone is a confession. He is counting himself as one of her baby daddies while simultaneously denying he is one of her baby daddies. Both of those things cannot be true at the same time, and he offered them 4 seconds apart like that contradiction was not sitting right there in the middle of the room. But the moment that actually broke the internet did not come from either adult. It came from the couch. Her 4-year-old son, unprompted, in the middle of playing, looks up and says it plain. "You know your mom got 2 kids and 2 baby dads." And then he went back to what he was doing like he had just announced that it might rain later. Y'all, the Shade Room has been clocking this little boy's microphone moments all summer. And there is a reason every single one of them lands like a gavel. 4-year-olds do not have incentive structures. He was not farming engagement. He was not protecting a brand. He was not managing a narrative. He was repeating the furniture of his home. Child development people have said for decades that kids that age are basically walking voice recorders with no delete button. So the question is not why he said it. The question is how many times did he hear it, in that house, from the adults, for it to come out of him that smooth, that flat, that rehearsed by osmosis. And the way he delivered it suggests the answer is enough times that it stopped sounding like information to him a long time ago. And since we are being precise, let's be precise about the room itself, because the room matters more than people realize. 16,000 concurrent viewers is not an audience. It is a jury pool, and everybody in that frame knew the jury was seated. Nevaeh has been streaming through this entire pregnancy, week after week, bump update after bump update, which means the audience did not just show up on August 3rd. The audience has been invested for 8 months. And that is the engine under all of this. When viewers watch a pregnancy grow in real time, they stop being spectators and start being shareholders. And shareholders demand earnings reports. August 3rd was an earnings report whether anybody in that house wanted it to be or not. That is why the clip traveled the way it did. It was not just what he said. It was who was owed the answer. 8 months of weekly updates built a stakeholder class, and that stakeholder class heard the CFO of the operation fumble the most basic number on the balance sheet. Of course they clipped it. Of course they cross-referenced it. That is what shareholders do when the numbers do not add up. And I keep coming back to those 3 words. We've been over this already, because the longer you sit with them, the heavier they get. Think about what has to be true for that sentence to exist. At some point, off camera, in that house, the question of whether Nevaeh has 2 kids or 3 was litigated. Not joked about. Litigated. Argued to a stalemate serious enough that both parties know the reference when it comes up. That means the number 2 did not materialize on August 3rd. It walked onto that live stream with a history. And a dispute with a history is not a slip. It is a position. Now stack that against the stakes in the room. This was not some random Tuesday rant stream. This was a gift hunting stream, 36 weeks in, with the shower 11 days out. The whole point of the broadcast was to convert viewers into baby shower revenue. That is the moment where every other couple on the planet is on their absolute best behavior, selling the fairy tale as hard as they can, because the fairy tale is the product. And in the middle of the sales pitch, the co-star of the fairy tale looked into the camera and reminded 16,000 customers that the paternity question is still sitting on the table unresolved. Either that man has the worst promotional instincts in the history of streaming, or the hedge matters more to him than the bag. And based on everything else on the board, I know which one I believe. Now let's talk about the receipts that were sitting on the board before August 3rd ever happened, because Blueface did not walk into that live stream with a clean slate, and neither did this relationship. Receipt number 1, and this one is loud. Karlissa Saffold, Blueface's own mother, went on record weeks ago in a July Instagram post that she has never walked back, and said it with her whole chest. Blueface will leave Nevaeh if it's not his. Y'all, sit with what that actually is. That is not gossip. That is a mother publicly pre-committing her son to an exit strategy, weeks before the birth, weeks before the shower, while the girlfriend is streaming pregnancy updates to thousands of people every week. She did not say we will see. She did not say I hope. She laid out a conditional. If it is not his, he walks. Which tells you 2 things at the exact same time. 1. Inside that family, paternity is an open question being actively discussed, not a settled fact. 2. They have already gamed out the version where the answer is bad. You do not announce your contingency plan unless you believe the contingency is live. Receipt number 2, the one nobody in that camp wants pulled back up because it is inconvenient. Back in February, Complex confirmed that Blueface reportedly cut Nevaeh from the roster only weeks before the pregnancy was announced. Cut, then uncut. Then suddenly it is girlfriend language, marriage language, and a doctor's visit floating around to make sure the baby is actually his. That is not me speculating. That is the documented sequence, and the TikTok trending caption about the doctor's visit was still up as of this week. Now, before I stitch the timeline together, one framing note, because it changes how every single date lands. Pregnancies run on a fixed clock. Everything else in this story, the streams, the fights, the promotions, the announcements, runs on a floating clock. The people in this story control when they go live, when they argue in public, when they announce things. They do not control August 24th. So when you line up everything they control against the one thing they cannot control, you stop asking why did he say that, and you start asking why did he say that then. The timing is the whole autopsy. Here is the weave. February 22nd, the on-stream pregnancy reveal, allegedly a surprise, though the surprise happened suspiciously close to when the roster was allegedly cleared. April, Nevaeh finds out on stream about another Blueface pregnancy floating in the wind, which means, let that sink in, she was getting relationship intelligence from her own audience. May 19th, Jaidyn Alexis, the mother of his older kids, is arguing with him on live because he sent Nevaeh money instead of her, and that fight was documented on Facebook video. June, quiet. Suspiciously quiet. July 11th, he promotes Nevaeh from roster girl to girlfriend and floats the word marriage. Late July, the doctor's visit clip drops. July 31st, TMZ runs a story about the couple hitting pause on intimacy. August 1st, the pay-to-enter baby shower invite goes public. August 3rd, the miscount. Now zoom out and look at the shape of that timeline, not the individual events. February through April, chaos and exposure. May, public money friction with the mother of his older children. June, silence. July, an escalation ladder, girlfriend title, marriage tease, doctor's visit, shower logistics, all stacked into a single month. August, the count slips. Y'all, that is not a relationship arc. That is a compression curve. Everything that should have been spread across a year got crammed into the final trimester. And compression curves in public relationships almost always mean one thing. A deadline was driving the schedule. Look at how the confidence keeps rising while the paternity clarity keeps falling. Every gesture that should signal certainty, the promotion, the marriage talk, the public shower, is landing at the exact moment a scheduled DNA question is sitting on the calendar. That is not how confidence moves. That is how insurance moves. And before anybody runs to the comments with the obvious defense, let me give it a fair hearing, because it deserves one. Later in that same live, Blueface did say, "I'm counting myself," like he was trying to walk it back. Fine. Take him at his word for a second. But then explain this. When Nevaeh said, "If I have a third one, it's over," he did not say our second baby. He said another baby dad. He kept her at 2, repeatedly, fluently, for minutes. You do not fluently miscount the woman you are publicly claiming. You just do not. And the walkback itself deserves a forensic pass, because walkbacks have a grammar. A genuine correction is instant. Wait, no, I mean 3. My bad, you know what I meant. It arrives in under a second. It carries embarrassment. It overcorrects. What happened on that live was a negotiated correction. The clarification only showed up after the room pushed. That is not a man fixing a mistake. That is a man discovering in real time, by watching the chat, that the mistake was audible. There is a difference between noticing you said something wrong and noticing that 16,000 people heard you say it. Only one of those produces a walkback like the one we got. Now watch Nevaeh in that clip, because her performance is the loudest thing in the frame once you know what you are looking at. That laugh is not the laugh of a woman being playfully teased. That is the laugh of somebody managing a crisis on a 16,000-person stage. Listen to the pitch of it. She giggles before he lands the sentence every single time. She is front-running his jokes, so the chat never sits in the silence long enough to hear what is actually being said. That is a specific learned skill. And watch her hands and her screen every time the conversation drifts toward numbers. Every time the count comes up, she redirects to the gifts, the subs, the chat questions. Streamers call it chat management, and it is a real, deliberate technique. When the room gets dangerous, you give the room something else to look at. Nevaeh was managing that room like a professional because she is one, which raises the uncomfortable follow-up. How many times has she had to manage this exact category of moment to get this smooth at it? And then there is the audio forensics, because this is the detail almost nobody clipped. At one point in that same stream, Nevaeh accidentally flashes Blueface's phone number on live and immediately says they are going to have to change his number too. As in again. Per the clip aggregators, that is the 4th time in 6 weeks a private detail has accidentally spilled on her streams. Ask anybody who has ever run a live for a living. And we have to talk about the shower, because the structure of that event is a receipt all by itself. A public baby shower where the location is only released after you buy a gift and send proof. I am not calling that anything more than what it is on paper. A public event where the price of entry is measurable, receivable value moving toward the hosts. I am not the person to draw the tax diagram. I am just saying, for a couple supposedly so private about this baby's paternity, they sure have built a spectator economy around him arriving. Now here is the angle nobody is touching, and it might be the loudest data point in the entire story. The silence. Count the people in Blueface orbit who have said absolutely nothing since August 3rd. The managers. The artist friends. The usual chorus that jumps on every viral moment involving him. Because proximity to his chaos is proximity to his traffic. This time, quiet. And in the attention economy, silence from people who monetize noise is itself data. It does not prove anything by itself, but when the loudest ecosystem on the internet decides a clip is not worth clipping, either the clip is radioactive or somebody asked for the silence. Neither option is comforting. And watch how the outlets are cutting the same footage, because the gap between what they print and what they know is one of the most reliable instruments in this whole story. The Shade Room ran the soft focus angle, a gentle pregnancy update caption, with Jaidyn Alexis's reaction buried 3 paragraphs down. Legacy hip-hop press posture. Do not spook the algorithm. Do not burn the source. TMZ went clinical. Their July 31st piece framed the whole arc as body image comedy and steered hard away from the paternity question. And understand why that dodge matters more than any headline. TMZ's entire competitive advantage is speed plus legal insulation. They print aggressively when the sourcing is locked, and they go soft focus when the sourcing cannot survive a demand letter. The intimacy story was safe. Quotes on tape, no claims, pure comedy. The paternity question carries defamation exposure if you mishandle it, because you are implying something about a specific unborn child. So the desk did what desks do. They printed the safe version and left the dangerous version for the audience to assemble themselves. When TMZ dodges a question, the question is the answer. Meanwhile, Capital Extra in the UK just flat out called it, announcing Blueface is having a baby with his new girlfriend. No hedge, no allegedly, no maybe. The distance from the story lets them print what the American blogs are too close to say. Now, the Steelman, because I hear it coming. The counter read goes, he was joking. He is always joking. He is a streamer. This is a bit. They are both in on it. The miscount is content. The doctor's appointment is a stunt. The marriage tease is bait. The whole thing is a content pipeline, and y'all are the marks. And genuinely, that is a real read. Here is why I am not buying it. Content bits get retired. This one has not been retired in 6 months. A running gag runs for a week, maybe 2. A running hedge runs for the full length of a pregnancy. And stress test it one more way. Follow the asymmetry. If this bit were mutual, if they were co-writing it, the jokes would cut both directions. Nevaeh would get to miscount him. She would get to tease the paternity question from the other side. Watch 6 months of footage. She never does. Every paternity-adjacent joke flows one direction, from him toward her, and every defensive laugh flows back the other way. A 2-person bit has 2 writers. This has 1 writer and 1 editor, and the editor is 9 months pregnant. That is not a content partnership. That is a narrative monopoly. And that brings me to the read, I do not think you are getting anywhere else, so lean in for this part. The mainstream framing is that Blueface is just a chaos rapper who says wild stuff, and Nevaeh is either playing along for clout or genuinely in love with a man who cannot stop putting his foot in his mouth. That is the comfortable read. That is the one that lets the blogs keep milking the cycle without ever picking a side. But peel the sticker off, and what is actually happening here is the most predictable pattern in this man's entire public catalog. It is the same choreography he ran with Chrisean Rock. Nearly identical beats, just remixed for a new lead. Deny publicly. Claim publicly. Deny again. Claim again. Schedule the DNA. Stall on the DNA. Get on live. Slip on the count. Wait for the timeline to bury the slip. Rinse. And honestly, the remix is less sophisticated than the original, which is saying something. With Chrisean, the cycle at least had novelty on its side. The audience had never seen the choreography before, so every denial claim whiplash landed as fresh chaos. This time, the audience knows the steps. Look at the comment sections under the August 3rd clips. People are not shocked. People are annotating. They are posting the Chrisean-era receipts next to the Nevaeh clips like they are lining up matching fabric. We have seen this movie. Blueface publicly claimed Chrisean Jr. only after previously denying paternity, and the Shade Room's co-parenting coverage already documented that whiplash in real time. This man does not accidentally miscount kids. He strategically miscounts kids, because strategic ambiguity keeps every woman in his orbit still checking his phone, and it keeps every viewer in his orbit still checking his lives. And when your audience starts pattern matching your personal life faster than your camp can spin it, the strategy is not working anymore. It is just still running. The way a program keeps running after the machine underneath it is already obsolete. Now here is the part of the machine that deserves its own paragraph, because it is the piece that outlives the relationship. Attention markets price uncertainty higher than resolution. A confirmed paternity is a single news cycle. An unresolved paternity is 9 months of compounding cycles. Every stream, every caption, every guest appearance becomes a new derivative contract on the same underlying question. Financially speaking, the rational move for everybody with a monetization pipe attached to this story is to never resolve it. which means the audience's hunger for an answer is structurally opposed to the participants' incentive to provide one. Remember that the next time the DNA conversation mysteriously stalls. Stalls are not accidents either. Every slip runs the numbers up. This live hit a 16,000 peak because he slipped. Her sub-farming works because he slipped. The pay-to-enter shower converts because he slipped. The slip is the business model. He is monetizing his own doubt in real time. And Nevaeh is either the co-CEO or the collateral. And watching her laugh 3 seconds ahead of every joke, I am not sure even she knows which one anymore. Karlissa said the quiet part first. If the result comes back a certain way, he walks. Everybody in that circle knows it. Nevaeh knows it. The 4-year-old knows it, and he is 4. The baby shower on August 16th is a load-bearing wall. If it holds, the story becomes a family. If it cracks, the story becomes a lawsuit. And the man at the center of it just told 16,000 people on a Monday afternoon that the woman carrying his alleged son has 2 kids and 2 baby dads. Nobody who is certain says that sentence. Nobody. And let me close the loop on why that little boy keeps surfacing in this breakdown. Because it is not just color. That child is the only person in the entire ecosystem with 0 incentive, 0 media training, and 0 script. And he is the one whose statements have been the most consistent across the whole summer. The adults have cycled through denials, claims, jokes, walkbacks, and silences. The 4-year-old has said the same sentence every time the question brushes past him. In any courtroom, consistency from the least sophisticated witness is treated as the most reliable signal in the room. We are not in a courtroom, but the principle travels. Now let's widen the lens one more time. Because there is a psychology to this whole ecosystem that explains why moments like August 3rd keep happening and why they will keep happening. Blueface has spent years training his audience to treat contradiction as entertainment. Every relationship in his public catalog has run on the same fuel. Say the outrageous thing, let the clip pages do the distribution, let the women involved absorb the damage control, then show up the next week like nothing happened. It works because the internet has a short memory and an infinite appetite. But here is what changes when a pregnancy enters the frame. The timeline stops being infinite. There is a hard date on the calendar now, and hard dates do not care about content strategies. Every week Nevaeh streams, the clock gets louder. Every clip, every joke, every hedge gets measured against a deadline that none of them can move. That is why the summer looks the way it looks. That is why June was so quiet and July was so loud. Deadlines compress behavior. And notice who absorbs the cost of that compression. It is never him. When Jaidyn Alexis went live in May about the money, she absorbed that news cycle. When Nevaeh found out about the other pregnancy in April, she absorbed that one in real time, in front of her own chat. When the miscount happened on August 3rd, Nevaeh absorbed that one too, laughing on cue, redirecting to the gifts, keeping the room warm while the internet built a case file underneath her. There is a pattern in who does the emotional labor in this ecosystem, and it is the same pattern every single time. He generates the chaos. The women manage the fallout. The audience clips both. And the platforms pay everybody except the people paying the real price. That is also why Karlissa's statement matters so much more than a typical messy mom quote. Mothers of celebrities go rogue on Instagram all the time, and most of it is noise. But this was not noise. This was a matriarch establishing, in writing, in advance, the exact conditions under which the family exits. That is not a woman stirring the pot. That is a woman protecting her son's options while there is still time to protect them. And the fact that she felt the need to do that publicly, weeks before the birth, tells you the private conversations in that family are a lot less settled than the matching outfit content wants you to believe. One more layer, and then we move to the roads. Watch what happened to the language around this baby across the summer, because the vocabulary drift is its own receipt. In February, the word was surprise. In April, the word was complicated. In July, the words were girlfriend, marriage, doctor's visit. And in August, the words are 2 kids and 2 baby dads. Track that arc. The language gets more committed as the certainty gets shakier, right up until the moment the mask slips and the arithmetic falls out of his mouth on live. That inverse relationship, public certainty rising while private certainty falls, is the single most reliable tell in this entire story. Confident people do not need to escalate their language every month. Hedging people do. And let me address the elephant that keeps stomping through my comment section every time I cover this man. Because some of y'all genuinely believe Blueface is playing four-dimensional chess with all of this, and I want to meet that argument where it lives. Could the miscount be deliberate? Could Blueface have walked into that live knowing exactly what he was about to say? Knowing the clip pages were hungry? Knowing the shower needed promotion? Sure, it is possible. But here is what that theory actually admits if you follow it all the way down. If Blueface planted that moment on purpose, then Blueface deliberately chose to publicly question the paternity of his own unborn child, 11 days before that child's baby shower, as a marketing strategy. That is not a defense. That is just a colder version of the same indictment. Either the mask slipped, or the mask is the face. Pick your poison, because both of them tell you exactly what this baby is walking into. And for the people saying Nevaeh knew what she signed up for, I hear you, but I need you to be honest about what she actually signed up for versus what this turned into. She signed up for the chaos. Everybody who gets next to Blueface signs up for the chaos. The chaos is advertised on the packaging. What nobody signs up for is becoming the punchline of a paternity joke at 36 weeks, in front of 16,000 people, while their 4-year-old fact-checks the room from the couch. There is a version of this where Blueface protects her through the home stretch, shuts the speculation down, and lets the baby arrive in peace. That version costs him nothing except the engagement metrics. He is not choosing it. 11 days before the shower, he is still not choosing it. And at some point, the choice he keeps not making becomes the loudest statement in the whole story. That is the frame I want y'all carrying into the final act here. Not as Blueface joking, not as Blueface trolling, but this. What does it mean that on every single fork in the road this summer, promote or protect, claim or hedge, lead or laugh, Blueface has taken the option that keeps the question alive? Because men who are certain do not feed the question. Men who are certain starve it. So where does this go next? I see 3 roads, and none of them are gentle. Road 1, the likeliest lane. The baby arrives right on schedule around August 24th. The shower on the 16th prints a beautiful public photo set. The paternity question gets softened by matching outfit content, and Blueface publicly claims the child in a scripted moment engineered to reset the discourse. And if that moment comes, I need y'all watching the caption on that first photo like a hawk, because it will be a masterclass in calibrated language. If it says welcome son without a possessive in front of it, instead of welcome my son, the hedge is still alive. Small tell, enormous meaning. Count the posts in the first 72 hours after the birth. Count how many times the baby appears versus how many times the word mine appears. Image first, pronoun last means the hedge is staying alive. Pronoun first, image second means the hedge is finally dying. This audience has been trained by this exact man's history to read those microsignals, and his camp knows the audience is reading them, which means every word of that first post will be chosen under pressure. There is no innocent caption left in this story. There has not been one since February. Road 2, the lane that flips the table. A private DNA result leaks, or gets leaked, before the shower, and the entire pay-to-winner model collapses under refund demands. Do not be shocked when a screenshot surfaces from somebody in the extended camp who was never supposed to have it. The moment that image drops, do not look at Blueface. Look at Karlissa's page. Her silence or her celebration will tell you everything the paperwork will not. Road 3, the long one, the cultural residue. 5 years out, this chapter becomes the case study every hip-hop podcast pulls up when they want to explain how the reality streaming era rewrote paternity as content. The next Nevaeh, because there will be one, will not be a girlfriend. She will be a co-producer with a contract. What we are watching in real time is the professionalization of the mess. The blueprint gets refined right here. The next generation of streamer rappers is taking notes, and once this format hits stability, expect a wave of public pregnancy content pipelines with monetized milestone reveals. That is the aftershock, not this baby. The 100 babies that come after, structured like season finales. And there is one more aftershock worth naming before we land this. And it is the one I think this chapter will actually be remembered for. The audience has changed. 5 years ago, a miscount on a live stream was gossip. Today, 16,000 people watched it happen live, clipped it inside the hour, cross-referenced it against a February roster cut, a May money fight, a July doctor's visit, and a 4-year-old's summer-long commentary, and build a working forensic file in the comments before a single outlet published a word. The audience is not consuming the story anymore. The audience is auditing it. That is the real shift. Not what he said, how fast the crowd caught it. And mark my words on this part. The same forensic crowd that dissected the Chrisean era has had 2 extra years of practice since then. They are faster now, better organized, and they do not forget a single frame. Whatever Blueface says at that shower on the 16th, whatever caption drops on the 24th, the audit starts the second he hits post. Because that is the piece that should genuinely worry every camp running this playbook. The old model assumed a lag. Say the wild thing on Monday, let the blogs catch up by Wednesday, spin it by Friday, and by the following Monday the timeline has moved on. That lag is gone. The crowd is running the same forensic frame-by-frame analysis that used to belong to gossip desks and legal teams, and they are doing it for free, in real time, with receipts organized by date. You cannot outrun an audience that screenshots. You cannot outspin an audience that archives. And you definitely cannot outmath an audience that watched you count on your fingers in front of 16,000 witnesses. And through all 3 roads, one thing stays true. The man who could not count to 3 on a live stream is not going to out-strategize a paternity test. The math always catches up. It just charges interest. So here's where I land. A man does not miscount his own bloodline unless the math was never settled in the first place. You can rehearse a caption. You can rehearse a laugh. You can rehearse a whole relationship for the camera. You cannot rehearse counting your own children, because that number lives in your body, and when it comes out wrong, it comes out wrong because somewhere in the wiring it was never right. His own mother has already announced the exit condition. His girlfriend is laughing 3 seconds ahead of every joke like a woman defusing bombs on a schedule. And a 4-year-old on a couch just delivered the most consistent testimony of the entire summer without even looking up from it. Hit that like button if this gave you the angle the big blogs were too scared to touch. Subscribe if you have not already, and ring that bell, because when that shower happens on the 16th and that due date hits on the 24th, we're going to be right back here running every frame of it down to the studs. And if you think this one was messy, wait until you hear what the 4-year-old said back in June that everybody slept on. That is a whole other video, and it is coming. I'll talk to y'all later.